So we have finally arrived at NFL Combine Week. And because of that, we got Bears new head coach Ben Johnson and Bears general manager Ryan Poles and the staff down there in Indianapolis to evaluate the future of the NFL and the Chicago Bears. But today they both held press conferences, and I just wanted to highlight some of the things that were more notable in today's press conference. Welcome back to Bears Yard. This your boy Vipe. And let's start off with Ben Johnson. So Ben Johnson met the media today for the second time as head coach of the Chicago Bears. And one of the big things that he was asked about was, what will the Bears do to rebuild the offensive line? And somebody asked him in particular, did he feel like it was possible to rebuild 3 new pieces to the line or do a major overhaul of the offensive line in one offseason? And Ben Johnson actually alluded to what the Carolina Panthers did last year in rebuilding their offensive line, where they signed 2 major key pieces in free agency, and then through the draft and whatnot, they were able to rebuild their offensive line. So Ben Johnson definitely feels like it is possible. And we know that the Bears have the draft capital and the salary cap space to do something similar to what the Panthers did last year. So I definitely think offensive line is on the Bears' mind, and they're definitely looking to go hard at free agency. Even Ryan Poles, he was asked about that at the press conference, and he talked about how it is easier to be more aggressive when you have a clear vision. And he talked about how he met with all of the groups involved, the front office, the scouting, how him and Ben Johnson have sat down and talked about things. So it does seem like him and Ben Johnson are in alignment about how they want to attack this offseason. Matter of fact, they both use language like the supply meeting the demand that the Bears have this year as it relates to free agency and the draft. So it sounds like Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles are both comfortable about the Bears' chances this offseason of making major improvements to get ready for this upcoming 2025 NFL season. You're watching Bears Yard, your home of opinionated Chicago Bears talk Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. So if you don't want to miss an episode, hit that subscribe button. They also asked Ben Johnson about his new offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, and how he came to land on him. And Ben Johnson alluded to making a phone call to now Lions offensive coordinator Johnny Morton. Morton and Doyle used to be on the staff at Denver last season. And basically, Morton told Ben Johnson that, listen, Declan Doyle is the next Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson joked about it. I think that's a good thing. So I think he's pretty confident. He said that Declan Doyle thinks a lot like him. So I think Ben Johnson is pretty comfortable with Declan Doyle being in the building and being the offensive coordinator. And he talked about, even though he is only 28 years old, he will get the respect of his peers, whether that be players and coaches and everybody else in the building. And he feels like that will be a good fit moving forward. They also asked him a question about DeAndre Swift. There's been a lot of talk about, when DeAndre Swift was in Detroit in 2022 and Ben Johnson and the Lions traded him. So the question came up today about his thoughts about DeAndre Swift. And he talked about how dynamic DeAndre Swift is and how he's decided to work with him this fall. So it sounds like he does have plans for DeAndre Swift, even if he's not the primary back, because I think we've talked about all season the Bears wanting to upgrade that running back room. So DeAndre Swift might still be in the picture, but I would highly be surprised if the Bears do not come out of the draft with at least one running back being drafted. And I expect that running back to be drafted pretty early because we know Ben Johnson pinch it for wanting a running back and how dynamic a running back is in his system, a la David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and things of that nature. And of course, they asked him about Caleb Williams and being excited to work with Caleb Williams, and he alluded to having a quarterback who can extend plays and create explosives and different things like that. And obviously, the only quarterback that he's worked with up to this point is Jared Goff, and Jared Goff is not the athlete that Caleb Williams is. So Ben Johnson expressed excitement about having those abilities in Caleb Williams to build the offense around him and do different things of that nature. So it sounds like Ben Johnson is definitely ready to rock and roll with Caleb Williams. One last point on the Ben Johnson front. He brought up a name that many Bear fans might not be familiar with, but name is Harry Freed. Apparently, this guy was on the staff with Matt Eberflus, and he is the game situation guy. And Ben Johnson chose to retain him. Now, we all know how badly Matt Eberflus mismanaged the game situations and scenarios last year. So you might be wondering to yourself, why in the world did the Bears and Ben Johnson retain this guy? But actually, Ben Johnson has a previous relationship with Harry Freed because they worked together in Miami. So there's a trust level there. So that is why Ben Johnson retained him. And they've already gotten together. They have a 30-minute meeting every day to go over different scenarios and things like that. Ben Johnson calls it the Breakfast Club. So I found that tidbit pretty interesting. Of course, when it comes to Ryan Poles, one of the first things he was asked about was Trey Smith, and he made the comment that he would not talk about players not on the Bears roster right now. So some people are taking the right now, meaning that he has eyes on Trey Smith. I don't know. The Kansas City GM, Brett Veach, is down there at the Combine as well. And I think one of the Kansas City reporters asked Brett Veach about him trying to retain Trey Smith, and he said he's feeling very optimistic. So there's a chance that the Chiefs might resign Trey Smith, although, again, it's going to cost them a lot of money, and they got a lot of other things they need to work on. So obviously he's going to say that, but how realistic will that be for them? I don't know. But Ryan Poles is definitely eyeing some big-time moves in free agency, I think, and Trey Smith might be one, but he would not give away his hand today. So kudos to him about that. But speaking of offensive linemen, Ryan Poles was asked about Braxton Jones, and he talked about Braxton Jones coming back from injury and doing all that stuff. But he also said something very telling. He said that there will be competition at the left tackle spot. Now, a lot of people feel like this means that the Bears will probably go out and draft the left tackle in the upcoming draft. I don't know how viable it is that you'll be able to get one in free agency, but there's definitely going to be left tackles available in the draft. So whether Braxton Jones is the starting left tackle next year or he's not, he's going to have competition according to Ryan Poles. And obviously, I think this is something that Ryan Poles says every year, but I think it perked up a few years this time around because obviously Braxton Jones is coming off of that injury, and the Bears are looking to bolster their offensive line heavily. So there's a chance that Braxton Jones will not be your starting left tackle come the beginning of the 2025 Chicago Bears season. Ryan Poles also hinted at making major acquisitions in the run game. He talked about running to improve the run game and make acquisitions between free agency and the draft for the running game. So again, that's another tale that him and Ben Johnson seem to be on the same page about upgrading that running back room. So definitely, again, be on the lookout for the Bears acquiring a running back this offseason. Speaking of running back, I know this is going to make a lot of Bears fans' ear perk up, but the Bears have scheduled a meeting to meet with Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. And I know some of y'all Bears fans are going to say that's insane, but you want to speak of insanity, I got a comment on my last video from my man Plank. He said, this is insane. This is an insane take. Absolutely ridiculous. A bust. I agree with you, Vipe. Bear down. And he's talking about this recent backlash that Rome Odunze had gotten. Fans talking about how he sucked and he shouldn't have been drafted at 9 different things like that. But I addressed that backlash in this video right there. Check it out.